Hi, everybody. This is Kevin from The Kevin Lee Show, and I just wanted to welcome you to my podcast. And if you've been here before and you've heard my podcast and you're now returning, then I want to welcome you back to my podcast. I also wanted to take a quick moment just to touch base with you and talk to you about my website, which is thekevinleeshow.com. That's thekevinleeshow.com. And the reason why I wanted to mention it to you is it's kind of like a central hub of all my stuff. So if you're ever interested in either listening to my podcast, reading my blogs, watching my videos, or just checking me out on social media, you can find all the information and all the links right there. But without further ado, it's time for the podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it might be, wherever you may be.
Welcome to The Kevin Lee Show. Alrighty, everybody. I just wanted to take a second here before I get going and apologize first off if my voice sounds a little scratchy or if I have to pause from time to time to take some water because where I live, it is springtime and my allergies are going a little haywire. Also, if you hear any little voices or banging or noises in the background, that's just my two little ones. So ignore them. And if it annoys you, sorry. Anyways, here's the blog. When is young too young? Recently, a doctor from Colorado, Tim Farnham, proposed a ballot initiative that would ban the sale of smartphones to parents who intend to put them into the hands of their own children, or at the very least, fine them for doing so. Dr. Farnham is the founder of Parents Against Underage Smartphones, or PAWS, a nonprofit group pushing the proposal. Now, I have no doubt that the aim of this doctor, and his entire group for that matter, are well-intentioned. That said, it's also way off base. It is not the job of the U.S. government to decide what people, and yes, that includes children, are allowed to do and not to do when it comes to their own personal lives. Let me repeat that. It is not the job of the U.S. government to decide what people are allowed to do and not to do when it comes to their personal lives. Is that understood? That is not a rhetorical question. Do you understand? You see, too many members of our society are under the belief that government can solve all of our problems. First off, that statement is insane. The U.S. government, and any large government, come to think of it, has shown time and time again that they are completely inept when it comes to running our lives. Basically, it does not work out well for the average person. Examples? You want examples? No worries. Number one, education. Ever since the federal government stuck their nose where it didn't belong by creating the U.S. Department of Education, and I'll remind you that wasn't even until the end of 1979, everything has been going downhill and gaining momentum with every passing school year. Standardized teaching and testing have not made our children smarter. It's handcuffed our teachers and made them ineffective, and it's made our students one-tracked and stressed out. Number two, healthcare. Well, I really can't get into it here, but as one who has actually worked in the field, I can assure you insurance is not the solution, it's the problem. There is a reason why a disposable ACE bandage is billed at $44 and a single dose of Tylenol is billed at $11. When I was a wee child, before health insurance was the norm, you could actually go to your doctor and pay them $25 for a visit. That was it. $25 and you're done. No filings, no deductibles for patients, and no write-offs for doctors. Just a simple transaction and everyone is happier. We need to go back to those days. Number three, social welfare. Again, I'll keep it brief. Welfare are for those who need it, and its existence is vitally important for them and our society at large. We should not and cannot have fellow Americans living and dying in the streets. This safety net should not go anywhere. But for those who use and abuse the system, they should be exposed and punished for what and who they are, crooks. I could go on, but if you've ever read any of my articles, you'll know that I believe in keeping these things as concise as possible. Honestly, there is already way too much interference by the government as is. To add to it would not only be oppressive, but ultimately detrimental to the day-to-day lives of each and every one of us. Can the government do good? Yes, it can. The problem is that once the government gets away from its intended purpose, protecting us from each other, defense from outside forces, and settling civil disputes, administration procedures do not usually work so smoothly. They start creating departments to oversee implementation and operations, but then they soon see that that those groups aren't enough, so they add more support departments under them. Of course, after a while, others notice that all these departments aren't working cohesive enough, so then they add more oversight departments to oversee all these previous departments. Noticing a pattern here? It won't end. Ever. The people in power never end departments. They only add to them. Whenever the government, whether state or federal, start collecting a new tax to support an initiative, some call this theft, they will always collect that money forevermore. Not to mention usually increase the amounts over time and then add more taxes on top of it for some other new endeavor. Why do they do all this? To fund all these departments and divisions that make up and enforce all these policies that those in charge believe are best for us. It's essentially the largest pyramid scheme in the history of history. So, do you think that we need yet another law telling us how to raise our children? Hell no. Getting tired of it yet? Yeah, me too. Thanks for taking the time to listen. Kevin.